Hello, hello. Welcome. This is Maniac Tim. Hope you guys can hear me all right. I had a little bit of difficulties. Might need to let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm not sure. But this is Maniac Tim with Maniac Sports. Shoot. There we go. Let's shut that off. Who's to blame? Sorry for being this impromptu deal, but uh yeah, I'm not very maniac-y right now. I'm kind of low key. I don't know why. But yeah, who's to blame for this loss? A lot of people are saying that, hey, well, it's the refs, and they're saying it's not the refs. They're saying it's Dan Campbell. Then they're saying, well, it's not Dan Campbell. They're saying it's the team gave up. We've been hearing that Ben Johnson not having the offense ready, Jared Goff, a lot of things. A lot of things are being said out there as far as who's who's to blame for this loss. Ultimately, we've seen a team that was not ready to play, or they were ready to play. They were competing. There were smart decisions being made by the coaching staff. They went to the lost and found area in Detroit, and they found their defense. But unfortunately, they left their offense somewhere. They left the wits as far as what's going on here. We've seen that the offense just didn't really look that good. It they did seem to be game planning all right. They ran consistently, but it's just they made too many mistakes. The Detroit Lions, you know, we it looked like they were controlling the game for a while and sticking with it, but once things went downhill, stats are pretty much close and stuff like that. I know they covered that on Detroit Lions on the Prowl, uh, but the stats looked really close. But it's just you didn't see, for some reason there wasn't a whole lot of um, stuff going on. There was not a whole lot of things that we seen. We seen mistakes, and that's what it was. We seen fumbles. We did see maybe not the best officiating game of the year, but we seen. I think it was more that we seen a lot of turnovers, and those mistakes killed us. They changed momentum when we were really close and in control. Until basically really close in going into the halftime. But then once and we were supposed to have the ball back, but for the second straight week in a row, Jared Goff goes ahead and throws an interception, right, right, basically pretty much the first play of the third quarter. You can't do that. You can't just go ahead and there was a couple of questionable calls, but even if you took away those questionable calls, you would have not have um, seen the you would have not have seen the it wouldn't change the outcome of the game. Anytime you give up five turnovers, I don't know why the Lions have a way of looking at things, at doing things so multiple. Like the game before last, it was. It was more on Dan Campbell with his play calling. Going for it on six. Going for it on 6 times and not getting one. Um, Going for it 4th and 6 times and not getting it one time. But you didn't see that this game. You seen where we went for field goals. We got a couple field goals. Unfortunately, the Lions were not well enough and skilled enough to go ahead and turn those field goals into touchdown. And then, of course, just like every game that they use, Murphy's Law needs to come back and just that they lose. Murphy's Law just needs to come back and just take over the team. Because fumbles. Jamal Williams fumbling on the 1 yard line. The question, was it really a touchdown or wasn't it? I've heard both, more that it wasn't a touchdown, but I also heard, well, and of course, even if Dan Campbell would have called, during the challenge flag, would they have really turned it over? I don't think they would have, because that the refs don't like us, And hey, Grandizer 12, what brings out the maniac in me? Well, you know what? Hey, yesterday, the last thing that I said to Herman Moore, was I found out what brings out the maniac in him, and I kind of shocked him a little bit, because he was on his way out, and as he was at Soaring Eagle Casino yesterday, and that's where I went to go ahead and that was where I went to go ahead and meet him, and we did a cameo there and stuff like that, and I got to figure out how to get that here so that I can show you guys that. But as he was walking out the door, I asked him what brings out the maniac in him, and he went ahead, and I thought, I was expecting him to come up with something real great and stuff like that. And I go, it doesn't, this is with any sport, what brings it out? Well, okay, I got hey, Jeremy B. Officiating and bad call turnovers. Hey, Jeremy, that's true. But what Herman Moore said was bad calls. Bad calls brought out the maniac in him. What brings out the maniac in me? Yeah, and that's basically what Jeremy says. As far as on the bad way, and bringing out the maniac doesn't have to always be the bad side of the thing. Bringing up the maniac also can be the good side of things, and unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of it yesterday. We've seen some decent runs. We've seen some field goals being kicked. We scored points, so we did see that. We felt the excitement, But yet again, even though we felt the excitement, it was ripped away. It was ripped away from us. Because once again, good old Murphy needed to go ahead and stick his nose where his business does not belong. And that is to help the Dallas Cowboys win. Yeah. All right. Hey, Jeremy. Yeah. A healthy team will make me happy. A happy maniac. Yeah, that's for sure. Hey, All these injuries. What the heck is going on in Detroit? What the heck? I mean, they have, I've heard strength and conditioning coaches and stuff like that. Are you trying to tell me that somebody that's being paid and knows what they're doing, even though they replace this position at least more than once, they still can't get it right? I just think I mean, DeAndre Swift, he went ahead and built himself all up and still ends up getting injured. I mean, what the hell? All right. Okay. Lions news. Former Lions offensive lineman Terrell Cosby criticized Dan Campbell's Sports Illustrated. Tim was there. Yes, yes. On that game, I think Dan Campbell did good. Except I would really like to see him at least try to challenge that one play. But I do think that Dan Campbell did a good coaching job. I mean, we had and you also got to give it to Aaron Glenn too. You got to give it to Aaron Glenn because Aaron Glenn, I mean, he just went ahead and he just went ahead and actually had a good game plan and actually kept us in the game. It's just those damn turnovers that we got. Excuse the French. I know it's not really French. All right, Jeremy, it was more about new rules for less. The amount of offense worked out. 2 days bowl in the ring and less possession game. All equals more soft tissues. I'm sure injuries. True. So that's on, and you got to think some of that's on the Players Association. Because the Players Association only lets them work out so many times too. So you got to be by the rules as far as for what was contracted with them when it comes to injuries. Yeah, I agree there. 4 turnovers in 10 plays, unacceptable. Exactly. But was that Dan Campbell's fault? And that's what I know, Jeremy, you don't want to say you don't like it when people say same old lines. Now, overall, as a team, this year it's not really been the same old lines. There's been a lot of mistakes. But I was listening a little bit to Woodward Sports, and they're saying that this game, it did look like more of the same old lines. All right. Okay. But the first interception was not an interception. I agree totally. I agree. And I'll tell you, I do not see, because I mean, the coach cannot go ahead and challenge that. Every play is supposed to be looked at. Every turnover is supposed to be looked at by the officials, whether it's in the headquarters in New York or whether it's on the field or whatever. I think it should be on the field. I think it should be showed. I think that this game should be stopped. Whatever team it is should be stopped before the game is allowed to proceed. To me, that did Rob, and that was also the start. One of the starts of the momentum changing, because when you get a preponderance of bad calls and stuff like that. And no, it's not bad. I mean, I'm not blaming the game loss on bad calls, okay? Because there was more than enough blame there. All right. Okay. Even Tony Romo, the biggest Cowboys homer ever, even said the that every turnover is to be reviewed. That one was not. Exactly. And I mean, hey, and we all know who Tony Romo is. He former Dallas Cowboy quarterback. And yeah, definitely a Dallas Cowboy fan. And yeah, I mean it's. And one thing I noticed, and believe me, I work with a lot of Cowboy fans. Okay, and when I was at work, some asked me how I was and stuff like that, and it was like, I mean, I wasn't like down or anything because the Lions lost, you know. But I was expecting to get some razzing and stuff because hey, this team. Well, to me, okay, in looking at it, I think I think the fans knew there was, like you say, that interception wasn't looked at, where a guy would pow drive to the ground and there was no penalty caught. I mean, there again, you see, it does seem, even if it isn't, but it does seem like there's bias in a lot of the way that the refs do the calling. And like I say, once again, I'm not blaming the total loss of this game on the refs, but I mean, it definitely played a part in it, but the Lions did have played a bigger part in it. I mean, it's just Romo said the ball was not under control. Exactly. And how many times have we seen where where actually it was not, it where actually it was, um, where they took a catch away from the Lions because it was not controlled. So there's still a lot of problems there with the officiating. That's for sure. All right, it's these sports books. Uh, the the big money was on the Lions. Food for thought. Exactly. Yeah, and really, so I mean, one of the things. What do you do? How do you correct this? And if you're talking about legitimacy of a sport, all right, uh, and we all remember when Ty Cobb was kicked out of baseball, and the Black Sox and all these other things that came about because of certain betting and stuff like that. But how much do the refs affect the game? You know, and there was even some talk in some camps where uh, owners were telling their players to, and this isn't the Lions. I'm not blaming the Lions ownership for doing it, but I remember there was a couple of teams that was said last year that due to betting and stuff like that, that there was a coach that accused the the owner for telling him not to go ahead and play as hard or whatever. I don't have all the details, so I don't want to get into this. But how do you change this? How do you fix it? How do you hold the refs accountable? You know. So I mean, what what can we do as fans? I mean, hey, if I mean, if you're a player, all right, and you go ahead and you lose, you lose a game because of a bad call, and you really suspect that it was because of the gambling and all this other stuff, then what the heck do you do to go ahead and change it, and how do you hold them accountable? Uh, Number one, like the NBA, make refs full time. Two, make them have at least an 85 or better call rate. I can agree with that. Um, what do we do to, how do they, okay, I want to know how to put, in the off season, uh, if they're being paid full time, then they ought to be learning in the off season how to do their jobs better. But I really think what you also need to do in some ways, and uh, this would be hard to do, but you need a outside entity has that has control over punishment if it can be proven. And what do you do to reward the teams that end up losing? Yeah, I know one thing, and I've heard Jim several times say, but see, this would really be a hard thing to do. But okay, if especially if it's like a game changing uh, penalty or something like that uh, at the end of the game. I know one of the things that Jim had thought should happen would be to go ahead and make them play that game again, or you're from the finish, from that point of that foul in the you know, corrective way. But really, does the NFL really want this to change, or is it what's good for them too? All right. Any penalty that creates a change of possession or negates a first down, use a sky ledge to review every one of the fouls. Exactly. Another thing that I think would be if you went ahead and you had before every game, all right, before every game and after every game, you have public, uh, you have it where it's publicly put on how the refs have called the amount of bad plays. There's a a tally. I'm not saying that exactly right, but there where it says, well, where they're actually showing, well, this what team it was called against and stuff like that too. All right, we do need to move on from the ref deal. Okay, Lions news. Detroit Lions waived return specialist Marcus Alexander, pride of Detroit, until was it? Yeah, I did hear that. So that basically leaves Cleve Raymond. Which he did an all right job. I know. Yeah, I know they. Uh, Marcus Alexander came from the USFL, and he fumbled the ball, not this time, but against the Patriots or something too. That really caused problems. But yeah, but Who do we bring? Okay, is there any players we could bring in right now to go ahead and help this team? I mean, that's you know, is there anyone that we could pick up or trade, and how much value, how much would we want to give up in trade capital? Who would we give up to bring in? To bring in like another stud rusher or something like that, or a another corner. I don't know. But hey, but as far as was was the bye week more of a hurt than it was a help? That's one thing we got to look at too. I want to thank anybody who's watching. Thank you, and thank you for the comments. Both Jeremy and Granddriver 12. Uh, I definitely want to thank you guys and anybody who else is taking their time out to watch this stream. I appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends. And of course, anybody who wants to be a guest on the show is welcome. We just got to set things up uh, in the future for it. But I do want to thank everybody for watching and for interacting. Uh, okay. So, do we need a roar? Okay, there's one to wake me up. All right. So, what are we going to, predictions as far as how many games do I think the Lions are going to win? I'll tell you, we'll be lucky to win 3 games this year again. I would like to see it happen. Well, if we should be able to beat the Bears twice, but will we beat the Bears twice? Will we be? I mean, of course we got the Dolphins coming up next week. Dolphins won this week. Will they be? Will the Lions be able to rise to the occasion and beat the Dolphins? Right now they're licking their wounds. They got to get some pride back in there, and right now that the team that I see most likely might be the Dolphins that they win, that they beat. But who knows? Then you got the Packers a week after that. Packers have one of the best things. Packers lost to the Commanders. Yeah, I mean that's just one of the best things, and I think they yeah, Packers lost to the Commanders. You wonder how that. But yeah, we still have a worse record than the Packers. So now Marcus Alexander being cut, waived. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much we're gonna miss him. In some ways, I wonder. But I do want to congratulate the friends that because I don't want everything to be sour apples. The Cowboys did deserve to win. Congratulations to any of my friends that are Cowboy fans. Even though we did point out some of the things. I don't know how to fix the refs. I don't know how to like I said, I'm not blaming this game. I mean, I'm not blaming this loss on the refs. I mean, the Lions did have enough time to go ahead and actually get their bearings back. But one thing I gotta give credit to is Dallas's defense. They went ahead and they had they were stripping that ball away from the Lions. So they they went ahead and knocked it out at least 2 times. So so and one of the times I was just talking to Jeremy and I said, "Oh, the Lions need to go ahead and rip the ball out of uh, Dak's hand, and the very next series, it happens to the Lions. So I guess I just gotta learn to keep my mouth shut because I say that and then it works in reverse. So it just doesn't work. Um, so is there any line on the game right now? I would take it that probably the Dolphins are picked to win. Uh, so I don't see how they would pick the Lions to beat the Dolphins right now. You know, I just don't see how they would pick them. Vegas is what I'm talking about. So I would think that the line is probably that the Dolphins is in the favor of the Dolphins. I'm not saying if it. I don't know how many points. If anybody can find that information, I would appreciate it. But yeah, once again, welcome to Tim's Maniac Sports. Hit that like button. Tell your friends. Great friend of mine, Jeremy. I'm really glad that you. I was really glad to spend some time with you yesterday. It was thanks once again for letting me know that Herman Moore was going to be at Soaring Eagle, and thanks for treating me to lunch too. I did appreciate that. And let's see, and of course, all the information that Brandon Drider 12 and stuff like that gives to me, and I really appreciate the interaction and posts that he gives. So these are friends of the show. Also Tristan, who every now and then will come on and stuff like that. And but just go ahead and I at one time thought this team and was going to win 10 games. Okay. In order to win 10 games this season, I think they can only lose one more game the whole year, and I don't see that happening. I'm hoping they can go ahead and get on a winning streak. Do I see them beating the Dolphins? To me, that's still kind of a toss-up. I think if they pull together, if we get DeAndre Swift or if Amon St. Brown is back fully, like he was supposed to be back this game, but if he's fully back next week, who knows what could happen. And also, when is Jameson Williams going to come? I mean, it was talked about that he was supposed to be back by the Lions game, and when do we call the season more or less call it for the year? I'm not saying throw games or anything like that, but at some point you got to start looking at which is better for the Lions long run. Is a bet, and well, to me, always winning. The more games that you can win in a season is always better on the long run, rather than just go ahead and try to get that first or second or third round draft pick. So you always want to go ahead and try to win your games. That's the way I feel about it. especially your rivalry games, your like in your division and stuff like that. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna pull up the schedule here real quick. Okay, so of course it's Green Bay, all right, Miami, then it's Green Bay, then we got Chicago at Chicago, all right, which I'll tell you, it's even going to be hard to beat Chicago at Chicago, even though Chicago ain't really that good of a team. Uh, then we go to the Giants. We play the Giants. Then, of course, you got the Bills on Thanksgiving Day game. Jacksonville, Vikings at the Lions. Of course, Jacksonville's at us, at Lions. We go to the Jets. We go to the Panthers. And the Bears come to us on the last. So the last two games are at Detroit, and they're against divisional opponents. So I don't know. I see at the most here, if I gotta, at the most, I see maybe we get 10 wins. And anybody who knows me knows that I don't like to pick games before it's actually played. I mean, and that's just because I want to see them win on the field. But if I'm a realist, I gotta look at that and say, if we get 4 wins this season, I won't be surprised, but we should at least get 4 wins. And this is really dropping off from it's a reality check. We're 1 win, 5 losses. Hopefully after next week we'll be 2 wins, 5 losses. Had to say that one for you, Grandizer 12. But okay, as far as who's to blame, I don't blame a lot of this on Dan Campbell. This game, all right. This game, I do think he had a good game plan. I do think that the offense has been lacking the last couple games. We cannot turn the ball over, so I blame a portion of it on blame a little portion of it on the refs. I blame a little portion of I don't really blame Dan Campbell for this one, for this loss. The Patriots loss, he gets the blame, and Vikings loss, and the other ones. But of course, refs, the offense, and the mistakes, and of course Murphy's law. So, who's to blame? And it's the execution. You got to be able to execute. It looks like we had a good game plan going into it, but you gotta be able to execute in order to make this. So, is this game? And hey, anybody, please leave in a comment. Do you think that this game? Well, number one? Who do you think is to blame? Is there, how many games do you think the Lions can win this year? And I guess a long-term prediction is, how much time if we can only come up with a four wins the whole year, how many people are crying for Dan Campbell's head, and would it really help? And right now you have a lot of people saying we need a regime change right now, but then you have other people that saying no, you need at least 3 years. this was a depleted team when Dan took over. I'm not if I'm looking at it, but I guess you gotta realize you gotta make your own decision and on how do we think how good is Dan Campbell in coaching, how good is Brad Holmes in building a team. So I want to see exactly what Brad Holmes is going to do in the draft. But if he has a draft where he's in his third draft coming back up, and yes, a lot of people's going to say it's too early to be talking about the draft, but right now I'm just looking at getting this season over with. I'm sorry. I am real sorry. It's one thing. I'm still gonna watch the Lions games through the end. I was listening to World Sports, and they're having trouble watching them, and it's like, no, I'm gonna watch them. I may yell, I may scream, I may bring out the maniac during the games, but hey, I'm gonna watch the Lions games. Um, uh, Once again, I want to thank everybody for watching. I don't want to keep on just going on just to talk. So I'm going to end up closing this out. I'm going to try to do another stream tomorrow to try to get some more information built up, get something better together. But thank you guys, and you all have a good night. Take care. Maniac Tim from Maniac Sports signing off. All right, go Lions, one pride. This is Maniac Sports. What brings out the maniac in you? Release the beast. And I know we haven't really done the Maniac Player of the Week. It's hard to do when your team loses all the time. But like I said, other teams can also nominate Maniac Players of the Week too. But I got nothing right now for Maniac Player of the Week. I'm sure not going to give it to Dak Prescott because he didn't really do much to win that game. All right. Well, you guys all have a good night. Maniac Tim signing off from Maniac Sports.